Alright, so what we have here is the US model of 1896 Krag-Jorgensen. You could pronounce it Krag-Jorgensen if you really want to, but I'm going to call it Krag-Jorgensen because that's probably how it's correctly pronounced. But anyway, this particular rifle was a one in 100 finds. It literally was. I went to the local gun show 3 months ago, and I saw this rifle on the table along with many other Civil War relics. Well, everything else was a Civil War relic. Of course, this is Spanish-American War. But anyway, it's everything on the table is covered in dust. Looks like it came out of somebody's coffin. From the seller, it was apparently sitting in the attic for at least 15 years until he found it. And he himself was selling it as a relic, a wall hanger, to complete that dream man cave of U.S. military arms. But I saw something else. Of course, it was heavily aged, but that was just on the surface. And so I got frankly, a very criminal price for it. I mean, again, for a non-firing gun, it made sense. And I took it home, and I cleaned it up, and my suspicions were more or less confirmed. This gun is perfectly in fireable condition, and yeah, it's a little bit more worn out than any gun that's been taken care of for the purpose of, as a collectible firearm. But, 4 trips to the range later, I mean, this gun still works, and it shot pretty nicely. I think I'm about round 41, 42, and yeah, I mean, basically I got a very, very collectible rifle for an extremely affordable price. So yeah, the Krag-Jorgensen is the U.S. rifle. There are different variations, alterations, modifications leading up from 1892 to 1898, and then eventually succeeded by the Springfield 1903. This particular model is the 1896, as it says on the receiver on the other side, and the serial number puts it around mid 1897, but that's only from one source, and I really can't confirm or deny that, but just put it out there. And the gun itself is in its original configuration. That's basically one of the most important parts of reason is why I got it, is that it still retains the full-length 30-inch barrel, which is very hard to find because once these were phased out by the 1903s and sold into the market as sporting rifles, many people sporterized the guns and cut down the barrel and all that stuff. And once you start doing that, people start buying those sporterized rifles and converting them back into carbines and saying they're original carbines, and then you got very shady fake guns, or fake authentic guns on the market. But this one, you can't fake a 30-inch barrel. Well, you can, but you can't do it without, altering the barrel itself. And there's no alterations to the barrel itself, so that's good. And it has a correct cutout for the 1896 pattern rifle, which has this inlet around the bolt handle in the wood. Other models don't have that. Didn't have it in the 1892 model, and then they omitted it for the 1898 model also, which is kind of weird, but I don't really know why. And then the extractor has this nub put into it. This is actually the telling feature of the 1896 model specifically. The 1892 model had a excessive play in the bolt. As you pulled it out, it had severe sway left and right. And what they did was they put this pin right here and then inletted the receiver so that it wouldn't do that anymore. And as you can tell, it works pretty well. And another feature, difference between the 1896 and the 1898 in particular was the magazine cutoff. This is right now for the 1896 model. The cutoff is engaged and you can't use the magazine, and when you flip it up, the cutoff is off and you can use it as a 5-round repeating bolt action rifle. And basically what the Army Ordnance came back and said was that the flipper in the up position is a severe obstruction to line of sight, and it impedes the shooter. So they changed. They basically made it the cutoff opposite. In the 1898 model, this is the on position where the round can't pick up the gun can't pick up a round from the magazine, and then to flip down is the magazine is on. But to me, it seems like a very minor nitpick, but that is a feature they put in the 1898 version. And all that said, this rifle actually isn't a perfect example of 1898. Again, the stock is, from what I can tell, original to the gun. It has the P cartouche at the bottom of the grip. I don't think you can tell that from the video. Maybe if I shine some light on it, you can see it. But there's a circle with a P in the center there. And then on the other side, it's extremely faint, but there is a inspector's cartouche with a 7 on it, which, it's a 1 and a 7, so speaking by the time period, it can only be really 1897 or 1907, and at that point, you have a 50-50 chance, and I'd say it's pretty good chances for the 1897, which is when this gun was made. But the sight is actually not correct for the gun. This is a 1901 pattern sight. I quite like it a lot. I didn't know it at the time, but you basically release this latch, and that allows the sight to move left or right for windage. I know that's a really cool vintage style of adjustment, don't you think? I think that's really cool. But anyway, and then you lock it into place, and then you have a very standard ladder sight for elevation. You loosen the nut and then put it up or down, and then you tighten it again. And then, of course, you have the 300-yard battle sight, like many other rifles. And this is a 1901 pattern sight. The original sight was much more basic. Didn't have most of these features, and I admit it makes adjustments in the field a lot easier. When I was trying out hand loads for 3040 Krag, you might be able to tell the rifle from the last century might not have ammunition readily available. But anyways, it's a better sight, but it's not original to the gun. My best guess is that when they collected these rifles and put them into storage, once the 1903 was starting to was getting adopted, a lot of the times rifles get re-arsenaled. If there's a broken part, you replace it. Basically, you make everything into functioning order, and then throw it back into storage, basically. And then from there, it got sold off to the civilian market. But what I'm hoping for is that the sight was added on as a re-arsenal from the arsenal, U.S. military arsenal. But that's really wishful thinking. There's not really any way to prove that or anything like that. But I mean, overall, considering that the sight is the only thing that's been changed, I think there's a fair shot that might be the case. But again, there's no way to prove that. In either case, I didn't really pay for an original all parts matching 1896, and I don't even think I paid for a Krag even to begin with. But yeah, basically a find of the century, in my opinion. And it's a pretty good shooter. Again, it has some quirks here and there, like it doesn't like Spitzer bullets, basically pointed bullets. It likes round the nose bullets. Spitzers have a very hard time loading sometimes, and yeah, basically, and that's it's a rifle from the last century. You can't really expect that. This was actually the first smokeless cartridge rifle the U.S. Army adopted. So before this, everything was black powder. So you can kind of forgive them to that they didn't get smokeless and Spitzer right at the same time. But I'm going to show you the magazine real quick, because I think that is by far the most unique feature of the Krag rifle. As you can tell, as a big lump of steel sticking out the side of the gun. And what this basically has is it has a horizontal magazine that feeds rounds straight across the bottom, and then brings them out into the chamber from the other side over. And I think that is an extremely interesting design. As you can see, this is where it feeds from, and then this is where you feed the magazine from. And then as you load the rounds, it's completely free floating, the rounds themselves. They're not under magazine spring tension until you actually close the magazine, which is, I think, is pretty cool. And you can see we put in a dummy round. This is a dummy cartridge, and you can see that the round gets pushed across the bottom and up and around into the chamber. That is a very funky looking design from me looking at it, being born in the 90s and living through the 2000s. It's a very, very unique magazine design, but I mean, ultimately this was the downfall of the gun itself. Apparently these magazines weren't very reliable out in the field, or this gun in general, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but this bolt only has one locking lug. Again, it's a very pretty early smokeless rifle, powder rifle, cartridge rifle, so the pressures inside of the chamber was nothing like we'd see today. And what the one locking lug does contribute to an extremely smooth action, and a lot of people, me included, a lot of times I second guess myself, because you can't really feel yourself picking up a round when you load. So you check to see if you actually loaded a round in the chamber. And the action is extremely smooth. It is by far the smoothest action I have. And I guess that comes at a caveat that it's the weakest action I have, but there's not really anything you can do about that. Once again, if you have this rifle, like it is 100 years old at this point, be very careful. Don't sit there and think, I'm going to get some match accuracy by loading very high pressure and try to shoot at 1,000 yards. These rifles, they're not meant for that. Personally, I think so. I mean, sure, I think they could be up to the task if you knew exactly what you were doing, but for me, it's a very, very antique collectible. And as far as the ATF considers, this is an antique rifle. It was made before 1899, so I mean, I guess this one I got lucky. It shoots fine, and I mean, there's a lot of things I had to do to it to get it to where it is. But if you find a Krag like I did, make sure you get it checked out by a gunsmith, and all the hoopty daws for shooting old guns. But yeah, I mean, this is a great find for a great price, and I love it. I mean, it's an extremely unique design, and my first U.S. military service rifle, which is kind of very fitting that it's the first smokeless U.S. cartridge rifle. So yeah, thanks for watching.